Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, soldiers. We are back for some other great updates, and I've got Vincent here with us today from GhostMarket. And I've had some opportunities over the last 6 months to work closely with Vincent on a couple of different projects, and he's here, he's there, he's all over the place, and he's always doing something, and just constantly typing away. It's just absolutely incredible what has transpired over the last 6 months. And the more I've learned about this project and understanding some of the technology, Vincent has been a very pivotal piece of that, of me trying to get a grasp from, developers' perspective and learning the processes, and the elements of smart contracts and the capabilities and use cases of all that. It's been absolutely fascinating. So last time we had Vincent on the air, we didn't even have the ability to mint our own NFTs. And boy, that just feels so long ago. And so without any further ado, dude, thanks, Vincent, for taking some of the time today to talk to some of the Phantasma audience and some GhostMarket fans. And I know since last time you were here, it was, the lines were gray. And now, I mean, you've got a behemoth on your own. I mean, GhostMarket has come a long way in the last 6 months in 2021. So thanks, man, for giving us your time today.
Yes, Scott, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. I think it's the second or third time we do this, or at least we talk about Phantasma or GhostMarket task and projects. And yeah, there are a lot happened in the last few months, some of which some people know, some they don't, which I will be detailing today. So yeah, a lot to be said.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. It's great. We did get up in the Reddit group and start asking some questions. We got some good questions as well that we'll get through. I'm sure you'll probably address some of those questions and just discussing some of the different elements. But as a more so as like anything of these events here, we want to know what has been done and what do you plan on doing. And so with that, let's go back. I believe UMint was launched in November. Is that correct? 2020?
No, it was like 2 days before Christmas.
It was December. So yeah, so yes. The end of last year. So we're literally at the 6-month anniversary of self-minting, and GhostMarket went live. We're probably close to a year now.
Yeah, somewhere around early September last year, but at first it was only for 22 hours NFT, nothing else. So to me, at least, the real launch was Christmas, because this is when people started to be able to mint their own NFT, and still back then it was lacking lots of features like auctions. We launched that late February or late March, I think. So it's all in all, it's quite fresh, I'd say.
Yeah, well, definitely a lot's transpired. It was somewhere around February. Well, it's February 15th that we began having conversations with Semcor, and boy, that diverted a lot of your efforts there. But let's why don't we talk a little bit about some of the features and some of the technology enhancements and changes that you've been a part of and transpired with GhostMarket, and then maybe we can transition over to some of the elements of the business side of your organization and what you've done and where you're going.
So in terms of features and whatnot, we've been working since now, I don't know, 2 months on a brand new GhostMarket version, what we call V2. This should be going live in 2 weeks, approximately. It's a full refactor of everything, basically, because the way it started, it was a single marketplace for one blockchain, for one project, and then it grew, and it was not optimized or scalable enough. So we took the time with 3 people, including myself, to refactor everything. It was a 3 months full-time job for 3 people, and we're getting there. It's almost done. This includes a brand new design, so literally a color scheme and whatnot. But the bulk of the work was on the back end, what you don't see, but what makes it super fast and super flexible in terms of queries and whatnot. And because the more we grow, the more complex queries are. You have to filter per project, per chain, per specific attributes and whatnot. Anyway, what started as something simple can be can turn quickly into something very, very complex. So it was time for us to take a break and take everything we have, refactor, make it like super professional, and that's where we are right now. Should be going live in 2 weeks. On top of that, it's a bit more related to organizational things, like you said, but I can say it right away. GhostMarket started September last year, about that. At first only by me, and then 3 friends joined and helped me, the co-founders, to build it basically. And since 2 or 3 months, we grew more. So we decided to take it to the next level. So we are finalizing a fundraise. We're raising $2 million. It's almost done. This should be announced very soon, but I can say today it's already fine. And what it means is that as of today, the team grew more. We are now up to 8 or 9 people working in GhostMarket, which includes support, front end, back end, marketing. It's all starting next week, because most people, including the founder, were working partially on GhostMarket and up until now. But since we now have funding, this will be going to the next level, and we have people working full time on it. So expect a ton more features to be added in a very short term.
Well, okay, yeah, I was just going to have to stop you there, because there was 2 really big things that you just you just dropped, that the community wasn't ready for, and or didn't have knowledge. And first off, taking a step back, a big project of a reskin, a retool, the visual UI and the operations of all of that. And it kind of reminds me of going back. So you said you went live in September, and it was exactly around when you went live, and there was discussions, and we heard about the aesthetics of GhostMarket. Personally, I liked the aesthetics of it, but everybody had an opinion, and you caught wind of that. You're like, well, we just launched. I'm just a developer, and I don't have that visual eye, and I can appreciate that. Half the reason why I have to wear attire like this is because I can't dress myself. I'm not an aesthetic. I don't have that ability. I'm not a musician.
Yeah, I'm not either.
So I respected that when you said that, and you were like, it's got to be done. Well, you just dropped that, and you're not saying here today, well, it's coming and we're working on it and this and that. You're saying we are 95% done. If you spent 3 months on it and you've got another 2 weeks, well, that's maybe not 95, but you're 80 to 90% complete.
95.
Fair enough. You're the developer, so you're the one that put this timestamp on it. So that's huge. And the implications of that is like, it's, the first impressions is everything. And GhostMarket has tremendous potential. And so these artists that are on there, they want a home that, they send their traffic to in their audience, and then they're comfortable with, and it will help in the elements of conversion. And so that's a big drop right there in itself. I think that is fantastic, and congratulations.
I just wanted to clarify that even though there will be tons of visual change, the bulk of the work is something you don't see, but you see it when you use the platform. It's blazing fast now. Not that it's slow currently, but the new version is like top notch, the top of what you can do, literally.
Yeah. And I recall going through some of those aspects, because those were some concerns that we had when we were driving traffic from a national campaign of Kevin Smith. And but that's incredible. Now, next, we're switching gears to business, and you said $2 million, dude. That's a lot of money. And you said we are at 3 people, and we're going to be at 8 or 9. So that's a 200% increase in resources. You're tripling your workforce, and you've got income, not income. You've got revenue or money to spend on marketing initiatives, which I know we've got some questions in regards to that, and further development. Are you at liberty to say right now where that money's coming from?
Not yet. It will be announced officially, but it's a mix of VC funds and private investors, basically. So the the whole idea is the raise is for us to kickstart a proper competitive top-end marketplace. And what it gives to investor is it's an exchange of tokens. We'll be introducing a governance token for a GhostMarket. In our case, given we are a cross-chain marketplace, it will be a cross-chain governance token. So basically, this is what the investment is about. It's to give investor access to this governance token. I won't detail the use case and whatnot today because it's not officially announced, but it's coming. And in exchange for pure investment, to allow us to have a couple years of funds to run everything we want to do. And 2 million is actually a very, very, very small amount. Some competitors which are way less feature rich or not even live already raised 10 times this amount. So no, 2 million is nothing. But in our case, it's plenty enough because we're not greedy. We want to do what we want to do to be able to compete. And this is what we came up with in terms of calculation, which is plenty enough to do everything we want to do to be amongst the top 5 or top 3 marketplace very shortly.
So wow, I love it. I love it. And respect the fact that you're not at liberty to disclose that, but that's not the relevancy here. You've continued to deliver everything that you've said, whether it been on a personal front, working directly with you, or on a business front, and how you've transpired with Phantasma. And from Phantasma's perspective, this just gets back to what I love and thrive for, and that's use, utility, and adoption. And here we are is getting, when you talk about traditional VC investor, that's traditional business means. And if there's something we saw in 2020 was it's a beginning, very, very, very beginning of the transition of, crypto is maturing. Traditional businesses are starting to come in, and we announced at Phantasma that we are working with enterprise clients, and these enterprise businesses that are well established recognize that blockchain can help solve a problem. So in a turn, Phantasma is merely a software solution provider. To hear traditional funding, not your typical raise a token and have a token generation events and go through that facet, but traditional funding is supporting your marketplace is extremely powerful. I bet you stay up at night sometimes because you're so excited. But for the Phantasma community, it's equally as exciting. And one pat on the back, bro. You're doing incredible work. Very, very good job. And congratulations.
Just to add to what you said, it's not just private funding. We will be also introducing a public sale part. I won't detail today again because some things are not final, but it's coming. It's less important in terms of amount for us, but it's more to have the community involved, to use our governance token. But the bulk of what we raise right now is private and through private investor or strategic partners, but there will be a public portion.
Well, that's amazing. Are we in a position right now to perhaps dig in, maybe even at a high level, on how you foresee that funding to be utilized, perhaps over the next quarter or 6 months, where some of that is going to go?
Yeah, so it's mostly about resources. Like I said, up until now, myself and the co-founders were not paid because it was a hobby. So first, this is something which has to change. At one point, I can't live on my own funds forever, and also to hire people.
Wow.
So we just hire 2 or 3 backend developers to help us. Also hired 2 front-end developers and a marketing resource. So the bulk of the fund we raise is for human power, literally. And on top of that, there are a lot of infrastructure costs, because as we're growing up and now we are a true cross-chain marketplace, we have tons of servers and nodes to maintain. I'm not saying it's expensive, but it adds up. And especially if you want to have something scalable, robust, and professional, you can have one server handling all. So I don't have the count, but we have dozens of servers everywhere, both for production environment, testing environment, a lot of stuff, And the third big part is marketing budget. This is the main point, especially in NFT marketplaces. You have to attract buyers and sellers, both of them. And it goes with both promoting yourself in terms of visibility, contest and whatnot. And this is very, very important aspect. So we hired someone to help us define a proper long-term both social media and pure marketing strategy, and a lot of incentives to attract collectors and buyers. So it's coming. I can't tell more, but it's related to a governance model. Maybe in a couple of weeks maximum, we will be publishing an article detailing all that. We know exactly what we want to do. It's just it's being drafted. So I don't want to say something which could be interpreted,
Yeah.
But that's a three key points. Human resource, that's a big one. Infrastructure cost and marketing costs.
Yeah. And marketing is a combination of resources and some external costs in relation to that. But that's incredible to be able to hear that, and that understanding. And from the business end of it, we talk about it a lot. Programming and creation and development of crypto technology is incredibly time consuming, but so is the business side of it here. And now you've got this help, and taken from an outsider's perspective, and as an investor myself, these are things that we look for. Like I remember in university in business, and I had a professor say to me, Vincent, and he said, one thing that every single CEO should have and absolutely needs is a vision. And that's specifically what I'm hearing from you and talking about that. When you get into it, I can see it in your physiology and your ability that you're demonstrating a good vision right now. And that's important. And sometimes we get lost in, the little bit of the development here and there in that time frame from September to December and UI. Like, you're not even a year old. The business is not even 1 year old. And you've accomplished that. So well done. And focusing in, you're right. You've got a marketplace that needs buyers and sellers, and you need fresh buyers and fresh sellers coming in and not just selling a simple little JPEG image, but utilizing the technology to engage with their audience. And that's what we're learning in the music world, that musicians and bands are realizing, hey, this technology isn't to come in and sell something quickly, but there's a lot of things that I can do differently today to connect with my people and bring them greater value. And your marketplace is that intermediate. Well, I think we're starting to use some time here, and we're definitely billing it. And let's get into some questions.
I can add a few more things before. So that's just one of the things we're working on. There are tons more. So we're also working with a couple of projects to deploy, mostly on Phantasma chain, but also on other chain to integrate their project properly into GhostMarket. This is something which will be going live. Same thing. Within a couple of weeks, I expect to see a few more projects starting up on GhostMarket. On top of that, we already signed a couple deals with some customer, which will be using exclusively GhostMarket infrastructure and API. Most of them are private for now, I can detail, but my point is GhostMarket API and infrastructure is turning into something very professional, used by many people and many other wallets and infrastructure tools, which from now on rely on us to provide them with NFT details, whether it's on Phantasma or other blockchain. And this is something we get revenue from. So on top of what we get currently, we also get paid because people use our API. So it's growing on a lot of different avenues, and it's growing well. Yeah.
Well, you know, blockchain, one of the beautiful things that we all love about blockchain is the aspect of decentralization. And you've got ledgers that are public ledgers, and we've got the ability. So it opens up the element of trust. And, you know, that's the whole driving force for this finance. And that conversation itself can vastly extend. But, you know, one of my favorite words of 2021 is agnostic. And us over at Phantasma recognize that users of our chain are likely going to be blockchain agnostic and potentially blockchain ignorant, meaning that we can't tie specifically to our ecosystem. We know there's other chains out there that have those constraints. And, you know, this is the fact that the Phantasma chain does have the interoperability to move tokens from Neo or Ethereum. Obviously, the next evolution is the ability to move NFTs from one blockchain to another. And now we're seeing one of our best partners flourish and introduced, you know, the Binance blockchain that we all support and believe that is necessary for this technology to flourish. And so that leads into one of the questions that was left in Reddit, that where or when do we realistically foresee the ability to move NFTs from one blockchain to another blockchain, perhaps through GhostMarket, or at least from Phantasma, because you do have some tie-ins with that as well?
It should be as early as late July. For the first version, at least. I can tell more details yet, but it's being worked on and it works well. It's just that it's one of the many things we do. Even though it's important, there are 10 other important things to be done. But technically, it's mostly done, and so it's coming. Yes.
Well, that's the first I've heard of that one, guys. And, you know, I remember a conversation we had a couple of months ago. It was actually with a client of ours, a mutual client. And the client was asking and started probing you a little bit. And you just came out and said, listen, it comes down to two things. It's time and money. And isn't that a lot of things in development? It's time and money. Well, since that 2-month period, you have acquired some new developers. We are starting to see some of the fruitions. You're cleaning up the front end. For you to say July, that's less than 30 days. We're not going to hold you to that, okay? Because we know there's going to be a lot of testing, and especially with NFTs, you know, there's a lot of information in the attributes that say the Ethereum blockchain doesn't have, that you got to handle all that stuff. There's going to be glitches most likely in the first testing on testnet, and but July, that's amazing. Gosh, that's incredible news right there. Let's take a look at some of the other questions here. Well, you know, what does the process for cross-chain transaction look like? Are they done through Poly network interoperability protocol?
It's one of the avenue we're going with, yes. There are other options in the works, but this will be one of them.
Well, I'm familiar with Matic and the Poly network. But I'm not familiar with specifically what this is and what is being asked here for the process of cross-chain transactions. Is that the process of moving NFTs from one chain to another?
Yes, it's the same thing we do at Phantasma to swap fungible assets. It's basically locking on one side and minted on the other side. Nothing complex. It's just done in a trustless way so that it's secure and whatnot. But technically, the hardest part is not the transfer itself. It's more porting everything over. Like you said, some features are not compatible from one chain to another because standards are different, and there are always a few minor stuff incompatible. But the process of transferring itself is very simple.
Well, a lot of these things are really simple to you. I hear that a lot. Well, it's really simple. Yeah, whatever, dude. What is simple to Vincent means complex to Scott for sure. We got to find a middle ground. What on-chain storage. So we got a question about on-chain storage, and the question is referring to well, what is it here exactly? Image stored for cross-chain NFTs now. So this is actually getting right back to it. And what about on-chain storage for cross-chain NFTs? How is that going to work?
It doesn't, I mean, there's no difference. Like I said, you're basically locking or burning on one side, and when it gets onto the other blockchain, you mint it. And at this point, you
Yeah.
create new storage, which reference or at least has a copy of everything the old one had. So it doesn't matter. After that, which storage you use, it depends. In our case, GhostMarket, currently we use almost exclusively IPFS, mostly for cost reason. It's the cheapest out there, but we are working on adding Phantasma storage and NeoFS storage options, as well as other options. But there are not a lot of good and scalable and cheap options when it comes to on-chain storage. It just doesn't exist, because blockchain storage is totally different from traditional storage. It's not been made to store lots of data. It's been made to store stuff in a trustless way. It's there, it won't be altered or tweaked or hacked, whatever. But it's not been made to store hundreds of gigs of video or whatever. Sure, you could, but it's just not realistic. On ETH, it's literally impossible. There are some hybrid projects, which store some of their metadata on-chain on ETH, but it's very, very, very limited and a very, very specific use case, because on ETH, you simply cannot store on-chain metadata. It already costs too much to mint NFT purely on ETH. So if you have to mint NFT with on-chain metadata, you will have to pay a stupid amount just for that, and people don't care. End user, of course, they are starting to understand what's the metadata. Okay, so that's how it works. Most NFT are actually not on-chain. Metadata are off-chain. Most people don't know that. People are starting to get aware of that. But for now, how it is, people want the solution which is the most cost-effective. They don't give a fuck about anything else.
It does come down to cost.
Yeah, always.
Cost is a driving factor of, you're right, of almost everything.
10 end user and you tell them solution A costs 1, solution B costs 10, they're not going to go with solution B. Never.
Yeah. We got a question here about Kevin Smith that I'll address. Is Kevin Smith releasing any more NFTs via GhostMarket, and anyone else? Well, I'll let you take that one. But yeah, just go and reference the state of the chain with Bill. Bill does address and cover everything that's going on with Semcor. Semcor is the agent that is representing Kevin Smith. The short answer to that is yes. And this was a product that GhostMarket had created for Semcor, which was their own custom marketplace, which essentially was a skin version of GhostMarket with some features taken out and other features created and added in. And it's looking like that something like that may turn into a product one day that businesses can come and purchase from GhostMarket and get implemented. And that was a conversation I just had with Vincent a few days ago. Is just that. And this leads into the Phantasma side. Are you talking with anyone else? And over at Phantasma, the answer is yes. And again, you could reference the state of the chain. Bill and I cover the discussions that we are currently engaged in and able to publicly talk about. And there are others that currently aren't public. But on your side of it, Vincent, to address that questions, is there what is the responsibility of GhostMarket with that? Are you going to take responsibility if artists or leads are coming to you, and are you going to facilitate the sale of that, or are you going to partner with a company like a Yellow Heart that will facilitate the sale on your marketplace?
We're still defining all that, to be honest. There are multiple ways to do it, and we are exploring all possible avenues. But at a high level, it depends. Mostly, it's on a case-by-case basis. Like some project have some experience with smart contract development, so they don't need any help with that. Some project want hands-on solution where hands-off solution where they have to do nothing but maybe pay something, and they have their own customized solution. Great, we can do it. I mean, right now it's a bit tricky in terms of planning because of all we do, but it's doable. So my vision for that is that we should offer like some kind of package. You want the full-blown solution where you have to do nothing, it's available. You want a hybrid solution where you have to do some of the work, it's doable. And then you have the solution for Mr. Everybody, like any artist. They don't want a customized website. I mean, they could, but usually a traditional artist, they don't need that. But maybe they want some customization or whatever. It's also available. And so it's a mix of everything. We don't have a preference per se. And, you know, it's blockchain, so the space is moving very fast. And maybe this month, the focus should be on artists, in a certain way, but maybe next month it will be totally different. So it's hard to predict what the trend will be. So we're investigating and trying stuff in all directions for now. It may seem not organized, but it actually is very much, because we're trying stuff, you know, literally, okay, let's see if we offer this to some customer, what do they think? And you know, if we have feedback, it's too expensive, or we don't want to do it like this, then we refine until we find something acceptable, and which also works for us, because at the end of the day, we also need to get paid. Obviously, our business model is based on trading fee mostly. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how it's done as long as the platform is used, sure. But we also have to account for our time. We don't want to spend, I don't know, 20 hours a week for something which wouldn't be worth it. As we grew a lot recently, we are now in a position where we get to pick what we want to do and which project we want to accept. And until we grow even further, we have to prioritize.
Good problems to have. Those are the types of business decisions you want to have to make in business, and that's really good. That's understandable. You know, I've been in business long enough to know that really, if you could facilitate and find the means with a client, identify the appropriate expectations with them, get paid for it, and recognize a fair, equitable profit. That's an ideal relationship. And when both parties have that, that's essentially what you've described by those three different potentials. And you know, you and I have been through these conversations as well with some of the leads that we're working on and a couple of the NFT campaigns that are coming out. But I think the long and short of it is for example, if a band, we've got Clink, that's a project that's coming out, well, probably near the end of the year, we'll see the first iteration of it, but it's in the music world. And you know, they're taking your technology and layering on top of that and being able to offer a unique service. And point being is onboarding, those frictions are unequivocally being reduced. So well done. And you know, I think we've really covered a lot here, Vincent. I think you have given an incredible overview of everything that's transpiring. I definitely want to invite you back every 3 months. This is something that we want to do on a regular basis for token holders of Phantasma. And I got one last question for you is, you know, when can I get myself some GhostMarket merch?
Okay, I promise I will get you one.
Sure. Yeah. Dude, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. It's always fun to have a little bit of fun with you like this and not just have to get into the nitty gritty of the details. And sometimes that, you know, we got to make everybody happy to do it. So it's a real pleasure working with you, and thanks for your time, man.
I appreciate it, Scott. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah. There you go.